From patience, wisdom, and unity, humans too can learn resilience, harmony, and the power of legacy.
The secret life of polar bears, kings of the frozen north in the farthest reaches of the world, where the sun barely rises and the wind slices through the endless white plains, lives a creature built to master the impossible, a creature sculpted by centuries of ice, silence, and survival. This is the realm of the polar bear, the king of the frozen north, a predator so perfectly adapted to cold that even the Arctic itself bows to its presence. Yet behind its colossal strength lies a life of struggle, patience, intelligence, and resilience that few humans have ever witnessed up close. Every story of the polar bear begins with snow. A tiny cub takes its first breath inside a den carved beneath the Arctic drifts, unaware that its world is changing, shrinking, melting. But the mother knows. She carries ancient wisdom passed through generations: how to hunt, how to navigate the ice, how to endure months without food, and how to protect her young against the rising dangers of the modern Arctic. The polar bear lives not just to survive, but to rule. Its journey from helpless newborn to apex predator is a saga of instinct and power, yet also of tenderness, sacrifice, and deep unspoken bonds within the frozen wilderness. As the world warms, its kingdom fades, but its spirit, unbreakable. This is the untold story of life on the edge of the earth. A story of birth, hunger, courage, hunt, danger, and destiny. A story that reveals not only the secret life of polar bears, but a reflection of our own humanity. Beneath a mountain of snow shaped by the endless Arctic winds, a quiet den rests in complete darkness. Inside, a female polar bear, weakened by months of fasting, curls her massive body into a shield around two newborn cubs. They are impossibly small, barely the size of a human hand, blind, helpless, whispering soft squeaks that echo gently inside the frozen chamber. The warmth of their mother's breath keeps them alive. Outside this sanctuary, temperatures can fall to 40 C, but here inside, the den is a warm sanctuary carved from instinct and memory. For the first weeks, the cubs know only warmth and milk. Their mother, who hasn't eaten in nearly 8 months, gives them everything she has. Her body burns its remaining fat reserves to create milk thick with energy, milk so powerful that the cubs double their weight in a few weeks. In these early moments, the polar bear's life is defined not by strength, but by sacrifice. Slowly, the cubs grow fur, their eyes open, and the world becomes more than a dark cocoon. They begin to crawl, clumsy and curious, tripping over each other and tumbling into their mother's side. Each movement strengthens their tiny muscles for the challenges ahead. Their mother watches silently, not with affection in human terms, but with a fierce, instinctive understanding that their survival depends entirely on her. By the time the cubs reach 3 months old, the den becomes too small. Their mother begins to dig, widening the exit tunnel. A soft glow of daylight enters the chamber for the first time, and the cubs blink in confusion. This is the beginning of their training. When they emerge into the open Arctic for the first time, the cubs experience a world vast beyond their imagination. The snow stretches endlessly. The wind carries the scent of ice and life. Their mother steps out first, checking for danger. Wolves are rare here, but the cold is the greatest threat. The cubs hesitate at the entrance, fearful of the void, but her soft grunt calls them forward. The first days outside are filled with lessons. They learn how to walk on snow, how to follow their mother's tracks carefully to avoid sinking into soft drifts, and how to recognize her signals. She teaches them patience by standing still for minutes, letting the wind settle. She teaches them distance, guiding them away from unstable ice. She teaches them rhythm, moving in slow, deliberate steps that the cubs mimic. Their mother has one goal: lead them to the sea ice, the hunting grounds of the Arctic, where seals live and where food lives. But this journey is long and dangerous. The cubs tire quickly, and the mother pauses often, waiting for them to regain strength. She never abandons them. As days pass, they travel across frozen plains shaped by storms. At night, their mother digs shallow pits where they huddle together, allowing her warmth to shield them from brutal winds. They do not know hunger yet, but their mother does. Each day without food weakens her further, but she pushes on. Her cubs must learn. During this period, the cubs discover play a vital part of their growth. They wrestle, chase each other, and tumble into snowdrifts, developing the agility and muscle needed for hunting later in life. Their mother sometimes watches, sometimes nudges them gently when they stray too far. She knows play is practice. One day, the wind carries a new smell, the scent of sea ice. The mother quickens her pace. The cubs struggle to keep up, but follow her footprints with determination. The landscape becomes harsher, the cold sharper, the silence deeper. Finally, they reach the frozen ocean, world of jagged ice sheets and endless horizons. For the cubs, this is overwhelming, but their mother is home. This is where she will teach them to hunt, to survive, to become rulers of the North. Their childhood ends here. Their training as predators begins. The frozen ocean stretches endlessly, a labyrinth of cracked ice, drifting snow, and shimmering blue shadows. For a polar bear, this is not a barren wasteland, it is a kingdom, alive with the scents and signs of life. Arender, now a young bull, leads his cubs across the ice, teaching them the rules of survival. The cubs, once clumsy, now move with purpose, each step measured, each pawfall calculated to avoid thin ice or dangerous crevices. Hunting is the ultimate lesson. Seals are the lifeblood of the polar bear. Their blubber provides not just energy, but survival in a world where food can be scarce for months. The mother demonstrates how to locate a seal's breathing hole. She waits in patience, motionless for hours, her massive frame blending into the white ice. The cubs watch quietly, learning that stillness can be a weapon. A single mistake can mean failure, hunger, or death. When the seal surfaces, the mother strikes with speed that belies her size, sinking her powerful paws into the ice and lifting the animal from its hole. The cubs are amazed and take notes in their own instinctive way. Each hunting attempt, each pause, each strike, becomes a memory etched into their developing brains. By repeating the process, they begin to understand the rhythm of the hunt, the importance of patience, and the inevitability of the Arctic's harsh demands. But survival is not only about hunting. Water is scarce, yet the polar bear drinks little, obtaining most of its hydration from seal fat. Energy conservation becomes a life skill. Every movement must serve a purpose. Exhaustion can be fatal, not only from the cold, but from predators. Though few dare challenge an adult bear, young cubs remain vulnerable to wolves and aggressive male bears. As weeks turn into months, the cubs grow stronger. They learn to read the ice, noticing cracks that suggest thin sheets or hidden channels. They follow the scent of prey, learning to distinguish between a seal's faint breath and the wind carrying distant scents from miles away. They discover strategy. One bear alone is a hunter, but patience and timing multiply the chances of success. Arender demonstrates dominance through observation rather than aggression. Young bulls may challenge one another, but the Arctic is unforgiving. The strongest do not win through sheer force alone, they survive through skill, calculation, and the ability to endure hunger and cold. The cubs watch carefully, imitating his gait, his pauses, his silent scans of the horizon. Danger is always near. A sudden snowstorm can disorient a cub, or force the herd to retreat to solid ground. Ice cracks unpredictably, carrying bears into freezing water. They learn to swim instinctively, powerful strokes cutting through icy currents. Survival demands adaptability. Those unable to adjust to the constant motion of the Arctic, to the shifting ice and elusive prey, do not survive. Seasonal changes add complexity. As spring approaches, the ice melts in patches, creating channels that complicate travel. Polar bears adjust their paths, hunting near the edges of openings where seals rest. Cubs learn that timing is crucial. The wrong approach can waste energy, scare prey, and invite danger. Hunting also carries lessons in patience and restraint. Arender teaches that a bear must avoid unnecessary fights, conserve energy, and choose battles wisely. Sometimes, a lone seal is not worth the effort if the risk of thin ice is too high. The Arctic teaches that survival is not merely about power, but about observation, decision-making, and respect for the environment. By summer, the cubs are nearly fully grown. Their muscles are strong, their fur thick, their instincts sharp. They can travel long distances, hunt efficiently, and assess danger quickly. Yet the cycle of life is unending. Arendor's mother, older now, begins to retreat from the hunt, leaving leadership and teaching to him. The cubs begin to understand that life is a relay, knowledge passed from one generation to the next. Conflict arises naturally. Rival male bears appear, drawn to the same hunting grounds. Arendor teaches the cubs the subtle signs of dominance: posture, growls, ear positions. Physical confrontation is avoided when possible, for the energy cost is high, and injuries can be fatal. When conflict is unavoidable, strength and technique matter, but also timing, strategy, and patience. Throughout, the Arctic is both a teacher and a threat. Hunger, cold, predators, and environmental hazards are constant. Yet polar bears adapt, surviving through instinct, learned behavior, and the hard-earned wisdom of elders. Cubs witness firsthand the delicate balance of power, patience, and resilience. By the end of the chapter, the cubs are almost independent. They have learned to hunt, to navigate the ice, to read danger, and to respect the frozen world they call home. Their lives are defined by rhythm, observation, and the silent guidance of those who came before. The chapter closes as Arendor watches the sun dip below the Arctic horizon. The cubs play in the fading light, yet each movement is measured, each leap calculated. The young bears are no longer helpless, they are becoming kings of the frozen north, equipped with survival, intelligence, and the patience required to thrive where few others could endure. The Arctic is harsh, unforgiving, and magnificent. Polar bears, born of ice and nurtured in silence, embody its essence: power, patience, wisdom, and the enduring ability to survive against the odds. As the Arctic seasons continue their unyielding rhythm, Arendor, now in his later years, moves with the quiet authority that only decades of survival can grant. His fur, once pristine white, bears hints of silver and wear, and scars from countless encounters with rivals, predators, and the harsh elements tell the story of a life lived fully in one of the planet's most extreme environments. Each movement is measured, deliberate, honed by experience rather than raw strength. Time has tempered his muscles, but sharpened his mind and instinct. Old age brings both challenges and wisdom. Energy reserves diminish more quickly, and hunting becomes more laborious. Thick ice may crack under his weight, or prey may elude him with swifter movements. Yet, Arendor's knowledge of the frozen world allows him to anticipate danger and navigate the shifting ice with unparalleled precision. He chooses paths carefully, conserving energy while maximizing opportunities for food and safety. The life lessons of decades guide him, teaching younger bears through example rather than instruction. Every calculated pause, every patient wait by a seal's breathing hole, and every cautious crossing of treacherous ice becomes a demonstration of survival for the next generation. Arendor's cubs, now grown, watch and learn. They understand the rhythms of the Arctic, not just through instinct, but through the lived example of their elder. They observe his patience, his timing, his respect for the environment, and his unwavering commitment to life. Through these lessons, the cycle of knowledge passes seamlessly, ensuring that the herd, the family, and the species itself continue. Even as physical prowess wanes, the legacy of wisdom endures. The polar bear teaches that strength alone does not sustain life. Understanding, awareness, and careful decision-making are the true markers of survival. Despite his age, Arendor continues to hunt, though with greater caution. His body has learned to conserve energy, to strike with precision, and to avoid unnecessary conflict. Seals remain the staple of his diet, and he employs a mix of patience, stealth, and timing honed over decades. Ice floes are crossed with careful assessment of stability, and hunting areas are chosen to minimize risk while maximizing success. For the older bear, survival is not about exerting power, but about moving intelligently, respecting the environment, and honoring the rhythm of life around him. As time progresses, death, the inevitable companion of life, approaches. Arendor's steps slow further, his movements deliberate and careful. Though his body may falter, his mind remains sharp, filled with memories of countless hunts, narrow escapes, seasons endured, and lessons learned. The Arctic itself seems to acknowledge his presence, a silent witness to a life marked by resilience, wisdom, and balance. Death, in this context, is not an end, but a culmination of purpose, a natural conclusion to a life lived in harmony with the world's harshest conditions. Even in the face of mortality, the bear's influence persists. His offspring, now mature hunters, carry forward the lessons he embodied: patience, observation, endurance, and unity. They know which paths to take, how to navigate ice, when to conserve energy, and how to teach the next generation. The Arctic, though unforgiving, becomes a classroom where every experience leaves a lasting mark. Through his life, Arinder ensures the continuity of knowledge, survival skills, and the resilience of his family and species. The spiritual reflection of a polar bear's life becomes evident in the silent rhythms of the Arctic. There is a profound lesson in Arindor's patience, in his measured actions, and in the balance he maintains between energy, effort, and survival. Life is not a constant pursuit of dominance, but a disciplined practice of awareness. The Arctic silence carries a message. Survival is not merely about power, but about harmony, foresight, and respect for the environment. The polar bear demonstrates the importance of legacy, how knowledge, patience, and strategic action are passed from one generation to the next. Strength is not measured in raw force alone. It is measured by the ability to protect, guide, and prepare others. Awareness and attentiveness allow life to thrive even under extreme adversity. Observing the polar bear, one can witness the virtue of patience, the significance of teaching and mentoring, and the necessity of thoughtful action. Arindor's life emphasizes endurance in the face of adversity. Harsh winters, thinning ice, scarce prey, and potential conflicts with rivals are constant challenges. Yet, he adapts, learns, and survives. Thoughtful adaptation is the foundation of sustained life. In the final stages of his life, Arinder finds solace in observation rather than action. He watches the sun cast long shadows over the frozen plains, observes the playful energy of younger bears, and notes the subtle shifts of ice and snow. Even in his waning strength, he contributes to the survival of his species through presence, guidance, and the example of endurance. This stage of life reveals the full arc of existence: birth, growth, struggle, mastery, teaching, and the eventual passing of wisdom to the next generation. Arindor's death, when it comes, is quiet and natural. He succumbs not to chaos but to the inevitable passage of time, leaving behind a legacy of survival, wisdom, and continuity. His cubs and grandchildren continue to thrive, embodying the lessons of patience, hunting precision, observation, and leadership. The Arctic remains unchanged in its beauty and danger, but the imprint of a life well lived persists. Final takeaways from the life of the polar bear: patience is strength. The polar bear teaches that careful timing, observation, and measured action ensure survival. Wisdom over force. Knowledge, awareness, and intelligent decisions outweigh raw power. Mentorship and legacy. Passing down lessons ensures continuity and survival of the species. Harmony with nature. Respecting the environment and understanding its rhythms fosters resilience. Spiritual reflection. The life of the polar bear inspires mindfulness, endurance, and connection to creation. The journey of Arinder, from cub to elder, shows that life is shaped by awareness, patience, and resilience. His story reflects the eternal value of learning from the environment, adapting thoughtfully, and leaving a lasting legacy. The Arctic bears witness to this truth, and the silent guardians of the frozen north remind us that survival is not only about strength, but also wisdom, observation, and respect for the natural world.